So one of the things that we've noticed at Marketing Profs, and I've noticed personally also, is that I think more marketers are getting more comfortable taking risks. This morning at our event, at the opening keynote, I shared the quote that marketing needs to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. I stole that from my best friend, Tim Washer, who shared that with me last week, and I absolutely think it's true. I've seen evidence of it in 2017, and I think it's going to be true going into 2018, because sometimes, our very best work comes out of us taking a bit of a risk. I think that's true in our personal lives, and I also think it's true in marketing. So I've seen actually more and more marketers being willing to embrace that idea, really embracing that notion and thinking, you know what, let's give it a shot.
Well, I think the lesson that we learned, it's a continuation of a lesson that we learned in 16, 15, and 14 is you can't rely on your social media channels. Whether it's Facebook, whether it's Twitter, whether it's LinkedIn. I mean, I love all those platforms. We use them all, but the connections that you build on those platforms don't belong to your enterprise. They don't belong to you at all. You're sort of renting it. And so what we talked to our social media team and our marketing team at Content Marketing Institute, we're like, all right, let's use these channels for whatever we can today. But we have to remember that when we get up tomorrow morning, they may not be there, or Facebook might have changed their algorithm again, and then what do? So I think if more companies go out there and say, look, whatever your goals are for using those channels and whatever your content cadence is and whatever the quality of content you have, fine, lean into that. But don't be surprised when you get up tomorrow and there's some new algorithm, some new rule, and you can't use those platforms, which is why we want to use those platforms and get them to our own content, to build our own email subscribers so we actually have that direct connection, because we can't control what Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat do. We can only control what we have with our customers and with those experiences that we can take care of on our own. So those are the lessons learned, and hopefully when those rules do change, which could be tomorrow, we're prepared for them.
If I'm to be really honest, the big problem in content in 2017 is that it's being lobbed at us by a bunch of people who really don't want to make it in the first place. There's a great deal of garbage content floating out there, like trash islands in the Pacific Ocean. And all of it is just junk made by people who are paid to make junk and who have bosses who don't really care that they did or didn't make the junk. And it's just floating there. And no one's going, gosh, I can't wait to read some great content marketing today. They want to read the thing that's about the thing they're into. And some of the people creating this are people who went to film school, who were taught by people who went to film school, who were taught by people who went to film school. And they have 1970s esoteric opinions of how the shape and feel of something's going to look in a world where the 6-second ad is king, in a world where Jeff Katzenberg just asked for $2 billion to reinvent 10-minute video when YouTube exists. And so there's this whole conflux of what's going on. And in 2017, I hope all of those bad marketers burn. I hope all of them have to work at Wendy's. And I hope that there's a big, wide open playing field for people who have passion and who want to really connect someone's interests with a community of people that like that and make real business happen.
I think one important lesson I've learned is that everyone's just so focused on pushing out all of this content that they don't spend enough time looking at the distribution piece, the paid and earned piece, how the paid and organic play well together, and they don't give their content any room to breathe. They're just focused on pushing out the next big thing. They don't kind of circle back and look at what worked and what didn't work to make it better next time.
Yeah, one of my pet peeves in content has always been how corporate buzzwords will creep into a script. And when you have people coming, the budget comes from marketing and from a product team, and of course they have messaging they want promoted. So they have a very strong interest to get their specific words out. But the problem with that is, I think really what we need to be doing is, instead of trying to change what people say, we need to change how people think. And to do that, that requires an emotional connection. And to do that, we need to sound like we're being open and honest and vulnerable. And you can't do that when you're talking about thought leadership or some other buzzword, because then the guard goes up right away. I feel like you're not being honest with me. You're pontificating about your own propaganda. I think that's the reaction people have. So I've always felt that way. It's been a tough sell for me. This year, I think people are starting to understand and get that point. And I think that's a lesson that some folks on our team have said, yeah, you know what, we don't necessarily have to get our specific slogan repeated by a customer?
I have an important lesson that I knew this ahead of time, but that you definitely need dedicated staff for content marketing. This is something that I preached, a lot about when I was at Marketo running content, and then my previous role, which was VP of Marketing at Everstring, I definitely preached that as well. At BrightFunnel, we are a smaller team, and I've had to make a few trade-offs here and there. We lost our content marketer earlier in the year, and so I've had to really develop a lot of the content, which is very challenging to do when you're running a full team as well as the sales development team. So again, that you need that dedicated resource to really maintain and run content has been incredibly top of mind for me as we're trying to scramble to get all the things done that we need to. Content is one of the most important things. It's really the fuel for all of our demand gen campaigns. So we try to get pretty creative in how we're slicing and dicing things up. But again, not having that dedicated resource has been, a bottleneck, I would say.
One of the most important lessons for content marketing, it's still documenting your content strategy. I feel like every year we chat, every time we get together for this, we're talking about creating a documented content strategy. It's shifted from 36% of folks that do that, of marketing teams that do that, to 37%. That 1% change is meaningless. The fact that we have 2/3 of marketing teams without a documented content strategy, it's insane. Because the benefits of that, one, you're going to be more productive, but two, and the most important thing, you use that internally. And I've worked at some very large companies, and every time we create a documented content strategy, that is the single most important deck or document that we create. I present that to every stakeholder, every executive, every time we have a content meeting. That is our anchor point. The fact that most marketers are not doing that drives me nuts.